Not all domestics go like this, but officers, when you show up to a domestic, you need to be ready mentally to encounter this guy. Hi everyone, welcome to today's badge cam lesson here at Active Self-Protection. I'm your host, John Correa.
I'm your co-host, Mike Williver. Today's video comes to us from St. Louis County, Missouri.
MagTech is the only freedom seed I use on the range. I personally have over 100,000 rounds downrange of MagTech, and it's unbelievably reliable, very accurate, and a great value. Pick some up for your next range trip wherever you shop for range supplies. News stories, as always, are linked in the description on this one. We're the only channel I know that does that, by the way, that puts all the news stories and as much information as we have in the description. So go check them out. Officers are showing up here because the 911 call has come in of domestic violence and he's got guns, and he tells the 911 operator, his wife's on the phone with 911, and he tells them, when the cops show up, I have guns and we are gonna have a gun battle. But of course they gotta show up to help this woman who is requesting help because the husband is threatening her with the guns. So we have two officers that show up here and they are issuing commands. And the guy's out on his front porch. You can see him there, they've got their pistol mounted lights on him. And again, he is challenging them, threatening them. You can go watch the original again. The original from the police department is linked in the description as well, has some audio on this part as well. They're gonna holler at him to drop it. It's not gonna work. He's gonna point the guns at the officers and then a gunfight is going to ensue. We do have audio from the dash cam as well as both badge cams from both officers. So let's listen in and hear what happened.
301, shot fired, victim.
That's clear, shot fired, victim, down 130.
6-8, shots fired, shots fired.
That's clear, our unit secure.
1, we're both secure.
That's clear, officers are secure. Do you want me to start EMS?
Start them in stage.
That's clear, 120.
6-8, I got both guns.
Where's he at? Where's he at?
Front porch, he's got guns.
Show me your hands! Where's the weapon? 3301, we're on scene. We're on scene with the subject. Put the weapon down! Put it down! Put the weapon down! One, hold.
And grab.
3301, hold the station. Suspect armed two times. Drop the fucking gun! Get on the fucking ground! Get on the fucking ground!
Come on, man!
Fate, get covered! Put the guns down!
Drop the fucking gun! Drop it now! Drop it! Drop it! Hey, dude, it's
Hey, I'm ready.
Hey, Tom. Drop the fucking gun! Drop it!
.3301, shots fired, victim down. Clear.
Shots fired, victim, down 130.
Shots fired, shots fired.
That's clear, our unit secure.
One, we're both secure. Hey, stay back!
That's clear, officers are secure. Do you want me to start EMS?
Go ahead, start them in stage.
I got the gun, I got the gun.
That's clear, 120.
I got both guns.
Hey, cover me.
That's clear. Victim down. I'm secure. There's nothing crazy.
Hey, roll over.
How do you do that?
Roll over. Ow!
44622.
Secure him. Got a gun? Drop whatever you got. Drop it. Drop it.
Put it down!
Drop it. Drop it. 6368, he's got two guns. We're at Sterling and Brambler. Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Drop the fucking gun! Drop the fucking gun! Drop the fucking gun! Drop the fucking gun! Drop it! Drop the fucking gun! Come on, man! You don't want to...
Got it. Get covered.
Drop the fucking gun! Drop it now! Drop it! Drop it! Hey, dude, it's on.
Hey, I'm ready.
It's on. Drop the fucking gun! Drop it!
Shot fired. 6 down. Clear.
6-8, shots fired, shots fired. Oh. I got the guns, I got the guns. Tell him I got the guns. Car 6368, I got both guns. Subject is down. Get everybody out here, crime scene. Tape everything.
Hey, cover.
Man, why did you do that? Wow. He's on. Secure.
One of the neighbors was capturing it on their cell phone as well, highly inadvisable, but there it is, and you're gonna see him here. He is going to then point the gun in the direction of the deputy. We'll see that on the dash cam as well when we get there in our analysis, but he points the gun at the officer here, and he's gonna end up shot for that. They did hit him multiple times. They originally took him to the hospital and charged him with multiple counts of aggravated assault and attempted murder of a protected person, but he did die of his injuries a couple of days later. This is the gun. You can see he fired one round out of the revolver here. You can see that one round there. He also had a yeet cannon on him that was unfired, and that's an interesting boat anchor to have on him as well. Thankfully, none of the officers were hurt, and the wife, I don't think, had any serious injuries. Man, certainly on that day, you want to have the skill set and be ready to handle that at some distance. So guess what, officers? Your police department qual ain't going to prepare you for this. You know, Mike, seems like every time we do one of these that the officers, people say, well, why didn't they send a social worker? Why didn't they send a crisis response team? Were these officers crisis trained? Friends, no social worker is going to come within a mile of this because we have a domestic violence call involving firearms and a guy who said he's violent, who's told the dispatchers he's violent. They're not coming into this, and this is why we say that our police officers are literally the lowest rung of society, that they can't avoid this at all. And this is why my hat goes off to those of you who wear the badge and go into these kinds of things every day. Mike, it's worth remembering this is super dangerous.
Yeah, that's a Clavin reference. The police are the lowest rung on the societal ladder. So when they are called, not every call, right? There's the cat in the tree and, grandma wandered off, that sort of thing. But for a lot of the calls that we respond, I say we, the royal we, I'm not law enforcement anymore. The calls we respond to are usually because someone's having a really bad day. This guy was having some kind of break or whatever. He was having a really bad day. His wife was having a really bad day because of his actions, and the police show up. And I know you want there to be another way. You want you, the viewer, want there to be some way for them to fix this or help this guy. And sometimes there just isn't. Sometimes it's just a terrible situation. You're not going to get a social worker or a PERT nurse or whatever within 2 blocks of this situation right now. Just like you're not going to get a paramedic or a firefighter because this is not what they're trained for. They're not supposed to be in this kind of peril, this kind of danger. So these officers, honestly, super brave, right? Very little cover for them to avail themselves of, but they still got out and dealt with the threat. So kudos to them.
Absolutely kudos to them. I also think there is a very interesting and important lesson here about why I believe officers all need a bright, good pistol-mounted light. Not a cheap one. I'm talking a high-quality one, right? And I'm not telling you which one to buy, but I'm saying get one of the good brands. Streamlight, Surefire, Modlight, Cloud Defensive. One of those really good ones that's bright, has an incredibly good spot. Yes, those cost a bunch of money. But you notice here, 25, 30 yards, we're a distance here. And you need to be able to light that guy up and see everything about him. And also, I think that you need to be trained with that. We see so many officers that have pistol-mounted lights, and yet they don't know well how to use them. And they do take training. And again, cops, especially if you're on the night shift, for goodness sakes, you need to train with that pistol-mounted light. You need to get a good one. And yeah, that might take a little bit of investment, but recognize very critically here how important these lights were so that the officers could see what was going on and get good hits when they needed to. So props to them for that. Also here, I do think, Mike, the one officer on the left is kind of hanging out in no man's land, and eventually he does go and find himself some cover. Man, sometimes you're just stuck in a spot where there's no cover available.
Yeah, that is a thing. Let me digress for just a moment. Something John just said about the light. Having a good quality name brand light matters. John and I years ago were talking about, of all things, tires on his wife's car. And I said, well, you can get these cheaper tires. And John's like, no, actually, the tires are the one thing keeping my wife's car and therefore my wife on the road and out of danger. So I'm going to get the best tires I can possibly get for my car. If her AC goes out, she's not going to die. If the tires fail or the brakes fail, we don't want to get budget. Just like I don't want budget, LASIK surgery on my eyes. I don't want a budget flashlight. That's the one thing that can help me identify when there's a threat against me or someone else, especially at night. As far as cover goes, look, sometimes cover's got to be a fire hydrant, right? It's got to be a curb or whatever is available. Do your best. And I think sometimes also recognizing that you're out, kind of your cheese is hanging out in the wind, right? Proverbially. I can say that word later. The recognizing that you should get to cover is sometimes a problem. And again, like anything else, I say, once you realize you're doing something that's not advisable, give yourself permission to change and do something different. In this case, going and finding some cover.
And in this case, notice the officer standing has to get a 25-yard hit. You can see the officer on the left is firing right now. I've stopped it where he fires his first round, and he fired first. He fired at the man first. But if you zoom in, and I get it, you might be watching this on your mobile device and be like, gosh, what can I see? Zoom in on the perp, and you can see he's pointing a gun at the officer right now. So does the officer need to shoot him? Absolutely, yes, the officer needs to shoot him unequivocally. Officers, I really want you to hear me here. I'm estimating distance here, okay? But my estimate of this distance is approximately 25 to 30 yards, given where the guy is on the front porch all the way into the street for the officer. 25 to 30 yards. So that stage on your, state mandated post pistol qualification is not a joke. And do you want to be hitting the edge of that big old B-27 they give you? Do you want to get a Charlie or a Delta here? No, you want an Alpha. And so I don't take this part of your training as a joke. And this is really where, Mike, I really think a pistol mounted optic comes into its own.
Yeah, and this is not to glorify shooting someone, right? But you want to center punch the bad guy who's actively trying to kill you. You want to stop him from doing what he's doing, and that means getting really effective shots on fire. Now, I can't claim a lot of expertise about optics, but what I've seen in the real world is an officer or a deputy or an agent with an optic mounted on their gun tends to be more accurate. They tend to be able to pinpoint stuff at a further distance a lot easier, most especially at night, I feel like. Just be able to be able to trust that dot, put it where it needs to go, depress the trigger, and get a shot on target. My anecdotal evidence, not evidence-based, John's is evidence-based. My anecdotal evidence says to me, man, those optics really are the way to go. They are the way of the future. Nothing wrong with iron sights. I spent a whole career using iron sights. But the optics, I think they just give you all the more advantage in a situation like this, especially at distance.
Yeah, and seeing your optics behind a pistol-mounted light in weird lighting conditions, again, you got to train with your pistol-mounted light. And if you are gun Amish and are running irons, I'm down with that, okay? We jokingly call it being gun Amish, but if that's the case, you better make sure that you understand how to utilize your iron sights. It's much easier. It definitely reduces the mental load trying to do that with a pistol-mounted optic at some distance. They do take a little bit of maintenance. They do take a little bit of adjustment, but most departments are at least allowing them now, if not issuing them. So this is where they really shine, is having that accuracy at distance. If you have the grip and the trigger control to use them adequately, right? Remember, grip is the master, sight set the pace, trigger is the servant. Make sure that you're getting hits, because misses don't end this gunfight. These officers did end this gunfight, and I really want to commend them for that. This officer who got the first hits stayed cool under pressure, put the guy down, and then they did get in there relatively quickly, get the guns away from him, and do the best they can to save his life. In fact, he lived for a couple of days. Again, he's the one responsible for his outcomes here. I don't have any challenges with that. Now, Mike, I do want to, as we look at the badge cams here, I'm not going to stop a whole lot on the badge cams because it was kind of difficult to see a lot of what went down in terms of the actual incident on the badge cams. But I'd love for you to talk with us a little bit about the communication issues here. And when both of these officers are screaming and hollering at the guy, it didn't really help. And so letting one or the other communicate. So is that one of those things where you just say, listen, he's already screaming and hollering at the guy, so I'm just going to sit here and be quiet? Or is that something you try to say, hey, you've got it, or do you just leave it be?
Listen, I don't think they had a lot of time to plan on this call as far as who was going to be contacting cover, who was going to communicate with the suspect and try to de-escalate and all that sort of thing. I can tell you this. There have been times that despite all my preaching back in the day under extreme stress with a person we believe to be armed, I'm yelling and my partner's yelling at the same time. And I didn't hear a thing he said, nor did he hear a thing I said, because you were so fixated on the threat, right? Auditory exclusion is a thing. You don't have to shoot a gun to get it, right? I think it's really difficult to, in the moment, learn that. This is why we need stress inoculation. This is why we need training under stress. This is why, you ever watch Full Metal Jacket? Senior Drill Sergeant Hartman isn't yelling and screaming and making these guys nervous for no reason. There's a method to his madness, and that is to get them used to being under stress in some small way. So I feel like force on force training, some kind of stress inoculation, and just doing this stuff in training as much as you can so that you can overcome that auditory exclusion. So you can realize, oh no, we're both yelling things. Maybe we're both yelling conflicting things, but whenever I see that on one of these videos, I remember I did that a couple of times. It's hard to overcome, but it can be done. But that training has to be done, and those mental ups have to be done in advance. John, this is just absolute parts of it are absolute chaos, and to step into that takes incredible bravery on the part of these officers.
I agree. Did you notice that this officer, we just watched him have to either clear a malfunction or reload his gun? We say reloads are vanishingly insignificant factors in private citizen gunfights because they are. But in officer-involved gunfights, because of the difference in mission, because you're closing with a perpetrator, you're taking them into custody, they happen pretty regular. So you need to be quick to reload and reload out of your duty vest. And everybody needs to know how to clear a malfunction, right? So we do those non-diagnostic malfunction clearances, and he did a really good job of getting his gun back in the fight in that particular moment. So I really think there's a lot of good here. These officers brave as all get out to move towards a man pointing guns at them who clearly here, this is suicide by cop is what this is. He wanted to die that day. He did what he needed to do to make that happen. That's a terrible outcome for his family. So I do want to end this one and talk just a little bit about the issue of the domestic violence, the issue of the mental health challenge that was clearly present here when this guy decided it's all blowing up today and I'm going to end it all. I can't say enough. Try your best. Get help before it gets to this place. When your marriage has gone to crap, when you find yourself, especially for men, you find yourself with that cloud over your head more than, once a month. You find that nothing brings you joy anymore. You find that your enjoyment of life is gone. You're always angry. You're snap. You don't have emotional control. Those are all symptoms of depression, friend. And getting some help for that is the bravest thing you can possibly do. And that might mean medication. That might mean some time with a therapist. That might mean changing some of your habits and behaviors so that you can be more successful in the world. Because you don't want to put this on your family. You don't want to put this on your wife and your kids and your neighbors to have to deal with this forever because it got to be too much to you, okay? And I know people that battle depression, I have nothing but respect for. They win that fight. They win that fight again and again, but you only got to lose it once.
Listen, I'm going to talk directly to you, law enforcement officers and agents and deputies out there. I've been there. I've been there at 2 a.m. I'm trying to keep my composure here. I've been there at 2 a.m. thinking those thoughts. It's been a long time, but I've been there and thinking about all the awful stuff that I've seen and been through over the years. Listen, you're not alone, right? Your agency has resources. You've got other officers, deputies, agents, whatever it is, who've been through what you've been through that you can talk to. But reach out and get the help that you need as a law enforcement officer, as well as the person on the other end of that. You've seen this. You've ended up killing someone now. You've been through a terrible traumatic incident, and it's important that you get the help that you need. And John's going to wrap us up here.
Yeah, last thing I'm going to say here, the neighbor who is using the cell phone video. We are grateful for the cell phone video because it lets us to see that this guy definitively pointed a gun at the cops. That said, this is stupid. This is the dumbest thing you could possibly do. You are sticking your nose out in the midst of an active gunfight is what you're doing. You are endangering yourself for what? For some likes on TikTok? For goodness sakes, don't do that. That is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Just get out of there. Get your family, behind something that is actually cover if you possibly can, behind a solid wall, and don't do this. These officers are brave and should be commended. I would say absolutely they covered their ass.